Okay, hello everyone. Okay, tell me if the sound is okay. So this is the final game. Great. So this is the final game of the Nongshim Cup, and the last time I was here, was around 11. That was 3 games ago, and in that game it was Park Junwon, and he played against KJ, and Park won that game. And China was left with only Jihao. So Jihao is the picture at the top of the screen there, on the top right, and um, he beat Park Junwang, and he beat Byung Sangil, and so he gets to play Shin Jinseo. So this is the final player for Korea, the final player for China. Um, Japan's Iyama disappeared. I think it was round 10 or something like that. So that was, So in this game, they started slow, and then something I'm not so familiar with happened in the upper left. So I'll be talking about, when I get to recap the opening here, I will be talking about what I expected to happen, and also try to explain what actually did. So it looks like I have some time right now, so I'll go back a bit. Let's see, where am I? Yeah, this thing. Okay, let's do it this way. Okay, so White's attachment here, White prepared for it with the approach move, so the move at c8. So after preparing once by playing that, White can attach to the star point. And like someone was saying it in the chat, it became very popular after we had AIs. So it was a move that we learned from the AIs. So if black plays on the outside, white's going to play towards the corner like this. And this depends on a ladder. So you see this wall that white has in the lower right. It means that this ladder is going to be good for white. Yeah, so yeah, that's obviously working. Maybe it would have been different if at some point black had got this peep in. But, top rows never answer that peep anyway. So if black had gotten that peep in, it would have been a ladder. And that would have changed everything that happens in the top left. So like, for instance, if black had played the peep here, you don't see people answering it nowadays. So white would be instead playing something on this side, for instance, and ignoring the peep. So the peep is not easily going to be forcing. So in the game, black played a pincer here. This is a big point. And white played here. So black played this one. So it has to do with the fact that the ladder favors white. And up to this point, it's forced. So let's get back to the game variation for a bit. Okay, black, okay, one move. So it was forced up to this point. And this is where white actually had a choice. And the choice was white could play the game move, which was crawling, or white also could have played this move. And it's hard to say which is better. Playing down to the second line like this also connects up to the stone on the side, and it puts more pressure on the black stone. So black would have to, on the black corner group. So black would have to defend the corner group. But of course, black 2 it's a good move anyway. And then that means that although black would be forced to play it 2, it's not necessarily bad for black. But the point is, white does get to play something towards the center from these 2 stones that white has there. And so maybe a fight like this, some kind of a fight like this. So black would be trying to attack on a large scale. White would be trying to get the left side territory, and then would be making trying to survive somehow on the top side. Is basically the story. Probably an even fight. So that was white's other option. In the game, white played here. So this is also a kind of a joseki. And black's tetsuji here is to play here. And if they'd still be playing at this point and I'd started my commentary, maybe I would have said that white has to back out of this. So For instance, if white had played here, black would play here. White could curl around, sort of sente, but black will actually play here, and white plays here. So in this case, white is threatening a ladder. If black plays on this side, white can capture in a ladder. So even though 5 is an empty triangle, it's the correct shape in this case, and white can, for instance, if white plays 7, white can capture the 3 stones. So locally, this would be something like a fairly even result. There's the fact that black has great shape on the top side, very strong position. Later on in the game, if black plays here, there's not so much happening for white on the top side. It's going to be relatively difficult for white to make an easy life there. Just because black's so strong on the left. Black has a forcing move here. Also, black has forcing moves from this side. So 10 is forcing, threatening to pull out. So this would be a bit troublesome. Means that black can sometimes make a shape on the left side, something like this. So the way black has sacrificed these 3 stones, there are ways for black to make use of it. So I would think that's about even. And so I probably would have told you that white can't do this because, for one thing, this move is really complicated. So the easy way for black to handle it is to play here. And if white goes down, this is just dead. Like, if white plays here, black can push twice and push out here. This is just not working for white. It's not working at all. White only has 3 liberties, so eventually black can capture these stones. Or if white plays here, it's pretty similar. Like, nothing really good is going to happen. So white can play all these forcing moves, but eventually black can just push a few times here, and will win the race to capture. So all of these white stones on the outside, most of them are just wasted in this variation. It's not working. And so white can't do that. So even though white has pushed through at 1, which is the game move, if black had covered at 2, white would have been forced to back out anyway. And black would play here, something like this. In this case, black's probably going to do something on this side. PhD Tony, thank you. Thank you always for your donation. And there's a cut here, but since this is not... It's a ko, and it's probably not good enough for white. So there's this ko here in the corner. This is like if this was a Tesuji problem, this would be what I would show you. But it's probably not. It's just not good enough. So black can win the ko, or black could probably even play outside and fight the ko also. It's probably better for black to win the ko. Just because white doesn't have any good ko threats either. And this stuff on the outside is just so bad for white to be pushed around there. I think it's just bad. So white can't do that yet. And would be playing something on the outside. So maybe something like this. Something like this. A variation like this would be an even fight. It would be a fairly even fight, I think. Black would actually have fairly good shape in the center. So black could have done that. But instead, black covers on the top. Now this is a kind of a weird race to capture. White curls around and Hanes plays here. So if white had played here, if white had crawled, then black would get this forcing move. And it would not be so good for white. It's well, not good. Actually, pretty similar to the game, but the game is better for white slightly. Okay. So white played a hane here and crawled. So against this, black has a number of choices. So let's take a look at some of them. The game hasn't moved forward so far. Maybe 2 or 3 moves. It's nothing outstandingly. So first of all, black cannot play here. White might choose to play once here, but or even if white just plays here immediately. The loss that black suffers on the outside. Capturing these stones probably doesn't make up for it. And the outside is too good for white. So like something like this. White would get all these forcing moves and have a very safe position there on the top side. And so even though black won the race to capture, it was only about 20 points. And this is probably good for white because everything else is working out well for white. So if black extends, now this is where it gets sort of iffy because black's probably going to win this, but it's going to be a ko. So white can play here. And this is threatening a ko in the corner. So like if this happens, then white does have a ko here immediately. So that's one kind of a ko. It's probably better for black to play like this. This would kill white also. White has some forcing moves on this side. And if white plays here, this is still going to be some kind of a ko. Because this would lose. This would lose the race to capture. Well, a desperate ko. This is not going to be a direct ko. It's going to be pretty bad for white. So it's probably better for white to play here. And in this case, if white connects next, white has 4 liberties, black has 3 liberties. So it's an advantage for white. Black can make a kind of a ko here, but this would not be a direct ko. So you can see there's a lot of ko's involved. Basically, black would like to be able to win this ko. So there's this ko here. And yeah, so it's sort of tricky for black too. So if black had extended, maybe that's what white would have done. So to go back to that, bottom line here is that if black had extended, white could play here. It's not going to be free. It's going to be some kind of a ko. So basically, yes, this variation. So this is pretty close to a direct ko. It's more or less a direct ko with some nuances, but that's good enough for white because this area is sort of black's area to start with, and also the fact that white gets a pretty good shape towards the left side, a good shape on that side. Okay, so one of the Tetsuji moves that black could play. Yes, to go back one more move. Now, if white had cut first, here, it would have been sente right now. If white had cut first, this would have been forcing. But the cut at 1 is really bad. So you might have recalled that when I made this variation, white was playing moves like this from this side. So that was really good that white could play at 5, get a better shape on the left side, maybe even use it as a ko threat in that ko that we were looking at. So white has a lot of positive value by cutting on the side, this side with 3. If white had started with this ko, then this would maybe be it would be a completely different story. So like in this case, it's much more difficult for white to find. Like white might try this. I don't know about this. It's much more difficult for white to even find the first ko threat. So it's a big difference there. So that's why he didn't start with the cut. Although it would have forced a variation, something like this, a direct ko, cutting at 1 is just so terrible locally that white just couldn't play it. So he crawled immediately. Okay, so now about black's next move. So that settles, I think that this is correct. So that's sort of my explanation for white's crawling here. And if black extends, then white's going to play here to get a ko. And we'll have this cut here for some extra value from this side. So that would be good for white. And black played here. So that was the game move. You often see this Tetsuji. In this case, maybe white would play here. Now this would just lose. This would just lose because white has 4 liberties. Black has actually a number more. So like in this case, the best white can get is this semi where white cannot push on the second line. So the white has nowhere to push. So when it's dead like this, having this forcing move is not going to be good enough. It's not going to be good enough for white. However, white will connect here and have a ko here. So again, white would be able to use this ko threat. So this ko is probably not so good for black. It's similar to the ko I was showing earlier. So the game move was correct. So when black plays here, now if white answers that, black can extend. And this is it's just a dead shape. So this is a bit painful for white. Like if white plays here, white's going to lose by one move. Yeah, so it's very painful for white. It's pretty much no way for white to save this. So white could not connect at 1. If white connects on this side, it's the same story. This is dead 2. So this was the tesuji. And white cut. So if black connects here, white gets to break out, obviously. So it was a pretty much forced sequence. And it looks fairly even. Okay, so white moved out. And black has to do something about that. Because if black just plays some slow move, then white gets good shape here. So this would probably improve white's shape fairly dramatically, getting to play there. White sort of wanted to push there, but if white pushes now, black can play the hanging connection here. This is really great shape, spreading out towards the center. So it's much more effective to play the game move. Sorry, let's get back to the game. And then if white gets a chance to play here. So that would be sort of messing with black's shape there. These two white stones, they have 3 liberties. And so sometimes white can hope to make some kind of a, so like hypothetically, like this is a pretty extreme example, but white would be losing this race to capture by 1 move. So like later on, white would be able to do stuff like this and squeeze. So black does win the race to capture, but white does get, in some cases, white would be able to squeeze like this. Okay, so maybe black could have played here, but of course the cut will not work because it punishes the black group. So black would have to find a more indirect way to make use of that weakness. So in the game, black attached here. Okay, so this is the game position. Let's go back. So attached and extended. Okay, that was a good point. And black jumped. So for the time being, it's a fight in the center between these two groups. And black has an advantage on the top side. So if we look at the top side, obviously white can't push through and cut here because black just wins. But of course, that could change slightly if at some point black fills this liberty. So like filling this liberty is something that sometimes black wants to do. But of course, it's dangerous for black on the top to fill the liberty. The reason black would like to do it is because, in a way, it gets rid of white cutting there also. So there's a shortage of liberties for white also. So there's this position where both sides sort of cannot do anything. Also, there's a peep here, which can relate to that shortage of liberties again, because if black doesn't answer it, then there's still this weakness here, where white has a shortage of liberties. So it's not really forcing to play at 1. White can get something towards the corner with moves like this, or moves like this. So it's not completely dead. It would be closer to dead if black got to play this move. So then it would be more difficult for white to save that stone. So this is a significant area. It's pretty, playing here and getting an area, a large area, which is close to territory. The top side, if the whole top side becomes black territory, it's probably close to 60 points. So that's a huge move. Okay, so white has reinforced there. You might note that white has gotten rid of that weakness while making an eye there for white's group. So the white's group is getting close to being alive. And let's see, black's group is not yet. But it has one eye. So like if we assume a shape something like this, which is probably not going to be played yet, but it does have one eye. It doesn't have 2 eyes yet. It doesn't have 2 eyes yet. Okay, black's territory up to the somewhere around the J line, that's about 20 points. So about 20 points up to the J line. And we don't know yet what's going to happen to the upper right corner. So that's a potential area. If it turns into the black territory, that's going to be more than 30 more points. So 30 something points if the whole area becomes black's territory. So it's pretty important, because if white lives there, then it's pretty close to 0. So as far as territory is concerned, that's the most immediate concern. But meanwhile, they're still fighting in the center. So fight in the center might come first. Okay. P3, yes. So that's Cyphus saying, can't P3 take the whole top right? And yeah, probably yes. Like there's an open area, an open line here towards the center, but it's going to be relatively difficult for white to make use of that. Yeah, for the time being, this fight in the center is more important. So black is improving on that group there. It looks pretty close. Like, okay. I can't pronounce that, but CAAXOB1 says AI prefers white. And like, yeah. AIs tell you that, and it's going to be pretty close anyway. So like, it could be a half point or something. Q3. Like if you're okay, that's actually a pretty good question by PhD Tony. Is there merit to Q3 instead of P3 to secure the top right? So what he's worried about is if we assume that this is now forcing, it is sort of like let's play this one first. It is sort of annoying for black if white were able to push through and cut here. There would be all sorts of stuff happening, and you might notice that the Damezmari here is disappeared now. It's gone. White's protected that. So this would be, yeah. So this would be a problem for black. So since 6 is a forcing move, it does mean that there is a bit more potential for white. So like if white did stuff like this, and eventually would be setting up a position something like this. Looks like there's going to be a ko there. So white can get a ko or something. It's not completely dead. So I think that's sort of the idea that PhD Tony had when he was questioning whether there might be some other kind of move. Like if you're worried about that ko, it's probably better to play on the second line like this. So this is a way to get rid of that eye. But yeah, if the white group in the center is strong, and it is getting stronger in the center here, then white will have moves like this, or sometimes one step at a time. There's a bit of a hole here, and so it might be difficult for black to get the whole area. But black is going to get something back on the right. So if you're expecting something like this to happen, then maybe it's not so, like there is some weakness to be playing on the second line. Later on in the game, this would become a big move for white. So usually this is better shape. It's a better territory for black in the corner. And if black adds another stone, the top side's going to be black's territory anyway. So like if we say maybe white's going to be doing this in any case, then the fact that there was a ko to start with would not be such a big issue. So it's what I'm trying to say is it's hard to say sometimes, but there's a potential of thinking of different moves. I think if I were going to avoid white getting that koe-like shape there, maybe I would play this point. This would be a better way if we assume this shape. This would be more effective in reducing white's eye space. So yes, it's black's turn here. Black's group in the center. It has one eye and it's out in the center. It's pretty strong. So this is a point where black could be changing to the top right. So starting to take that territory there. If black doesn't, yeah, let's say something like this. He's not going to play that move, but for instance, then it is like white playing something like this or something like this or this. Like I'm not sure which is going to be the best. If black plays here, for the time being, this is a good point too. So like this would be chasing the black group and building the left side. So the left side is pretty important too. Okay, let's see what the game is doing. Okay, so it's black's turn here. All right, about time controls. The players have 1 hour each, and 1 minute after that. So the overtime is just 1 minute, and so it's going to be a relatively fast game. Okay, so invading the left side here is a very aggressive move when black is not alive yet in the center. So it was a bit more than I had expected. I wouldn't have been surprised at black playing something in the center, actually. So playing something around here, for instance, this would reinforce black's group in the center, and it would be threatening to jump into the left side. And it would be an exchange that black could play before going for the top right. Because if black goes for the top right immediately, it's a good point for white to play here too. So like if white plays here, we can see the left side sort of spreading out and getting pretty big. So it's an area that catches my eye, let's say. And so it's an important area, I think. But I was a bit surprised to see black going so deep when black still has a group in the center that's not quite settled. So black invaded, and white plays a komi. So white has to hope for some kind of an attack here. So the group in the center, there's another stone that black has on the bottom side. And now black has invaded the left side, black's going to have to do something with that stone too. So it's going to get pretty wild. White will have to be attacking here, because if you look for white territory, you might notice that there's not really very much of it. So I guess that's going to be black's strategy in this game, is to just invade everywhere and live with everything and have an advantage in territory. So like there's that 20 points in the upper left that's never going to disappear. I probably shouldn't say that, but usually not. It's pretty big, so it's actually a bit more than 20 points, but it's 20 points. It's 20 points somewhere around the J line, so it's probably a bit bigger than that. And then, of course, there's that black corner territory in the lower right. And even if white plays first in the upper right, there's going to be some black territory there. So black does have a lot of territories. And white's only territory for the time being, it's the lower left corner, is probably going to be a territory. But that's not even secure either. So black does have a kind of a potential lead in territory here, if black can live with everything. So, for instance, sliding on the second line is a move that jumps to mind immediately. Okay, W Zhang. Do you play differently with the white pieces, the white stones, you might say? Feel playing black is more difficult because you really have to make first move matter to overcome komi. Yeah, I think it's still true that black does play very actively, and white, in some cases, can hope to make use of the komi to win the game. So, basically, that's true, and I do play more actively with black. And it has to do with your style to a certain degree. Like I think I do well playing with black and playing actively. And I have more fun that way when I get to decide the course of the game to a certain degree. Frozen Soul, thank you for the donation. Thank you. So, yes. But I don't think it's difficult. Like I think the komi, although it is difficult to say whether 6.5 or 7.5 is correct. In either case, it's a close game. So it's I think the komi is basically pretty valid, and it's just that the black player does have to pay it in the end. So you do have to have a lead. Noticing what the computers do, AIs do, they don't necessarily seem to change the way they play with black or white. They're both playing fairly simple opening in either case most of the time. So maybe it's not that important. B10, yeah. So if black slides at B10, yeah, it is sort of awkward. I would just immediately slide. Although maybe black is thinking of playing this first and then sliding. So like playing here would be one of these moves. It would be a fairly important point for white to be playing too. So I think black does sort of want to slide. It's not necessarily going to be sente though. So if black slides here, white might be playing on this side. And if black can't really cut white, so white's going to capture these stones if black tries to cut. So like this. So the fact that it's not necessarily sente might be a problem. And Twitch, everyone's talking about, I think it's philosophy. Looks a bit difficult for me. So I'll let people continue without me. Oh yeah, thank you, Jake. I did have a tournament game yesterday, and I won it. So yeah, that's good. I might be a bit tired because I played a game yesterday, but yes. I'm happy that I won the game. Okay, black did slide. Let's see if I lost the game. Okay, I'm in okay, yeah. Okay, so black slided and white has pretty similar to what I was suggesting here. So black does seem to have room to live. So that would be curling. And let's see. Oh, Frozen Soul, thank you again. Curling and, for instance, sliding here. Black does seem to have room to live. Okay, back to the game then. Let's see. Thank you, Justin. Okay. Okay, yes. Counting TLS, Thomas Leonard Su says Gu has used a lot more time, 20 minutes more than Shin. And yes, the app I'm looking at here agrees. He has only about 15, 16 minutes left. So yeah, maybe, well, according to this clock, Gu Jihao has 43 minutes. So there's close to 30 minutes difference. Right. So the point is, people are talking about Amashi or just Shinogi. Basically, black does not have, white doesn't have very much territory. So if black can survive this unscathed, this is, black will have the lead in territory. But it's going to be a fairly long and difficult road because black has this group, this stone on the lower side, which eventually will be attacked by white, and this group in the center, which is not alive yet. So for instance, in the center, okay. So the slide here, black is looking at the attachment in the corner. So so black is looking at a move like this, where black can expand his eye space. If white plays here, this would sort of establish the fact that black has only one eye in the center, but it would force white to put a stone back. So there is some question as to whether white wants to do that yet. For the time being, white's sort of okay without playing anything there. So if white were to play something, I think it's going to be this move. But he might just leave it for a while. So from the corner, white could try playing this move to stop black from playing that attachment at b16. So that would be attacking from this side. That would be my first idea. Oh, get back to the game then. Oh, white did play there. Okay. Okay, so in this case, oh, extended? Uh-huh. This one, it's sort of difficult to make two eyes. I was thinking maybe black was going to play here. Oh, sorry. Here. So this would have been forcing. And this would be alive. Yeah, this looks like it's going to be alive. So something like this. I guess it's alive. Yes. A lot better than being dead. So yeah, being alive is good. So, yeah, I think now it's going to be more in the game position. It's going to be more difficult for black to make two eyes. So it's going to depend more on making trouble for white. So for instance, like there's some weaknesses in white's position on the outside. But if we just assume that white's okay there, and we make a diagram sort of similar to what I was doing before. Now this is probably not alive, so white just plays like this and like this, and it's not enough space to live. So that's a pretty basic life and death thing. So if black tries to live the same way as I was showing before, the difference of this black stone that's marked with a triangle, not really participating in making the eyes, and having it at 13. So it's the difference of this false eye at B12. So that's the difference. If black had played that move like this, then the same sequence would be relatively easy for black to live. So this way, it's just enough space. Black can probably get a ko though. Maybe black can get a ko. So for instance, the knight's move. That's interesting. That's a bit more loose. So I think with this move, well, it's probably not trying to kill the black group outright, but is more focused on getting a strong position on the outside to start a second attack in the center and on the bottom side. So he's probably more focused on attacking those stones at this point. Okay, Ed, Helen asked an interesting question here. Is there any major strategic difference between 1P pros and World Tour pros on average, or is the difference largely in technical ability? Tactically speaking, younger players are generally very good because they're young, basically. Yeah. So if we're talking about new professionals, young wandans, they're supposed to be very good at the reading, or they won't get anywhere. And for instance, in China, there's so many Go players. Historically, there's so many Go players in recent years, at least, who wanted to become professional. It was extremely competitive. And so once they became professional, they were already very strong and had chance. So you would see a lot of new faces coming up and taking Chinese titles or world championships. I think the number of new players who come up and surprise you is much larger with Chinese players than it is in Korea or Japan. And so basically there's no difference, and there used to be a major strategic difference because it was relatively difficult to get the experience to play well in the opening. The strategic ideas that we have, I'm of the opinion that it takes decades to actually sort of build them up and have a good strategy, which is not so true now that we have AIs, because the younger players are starting with an answer that the computer is giving them. And the fact that they know they have a number, a solid data there to start with, it means that it's a lot easier for them to develop a kind of a game plan, strategic ideas. In the past, like, all we knew was that some famous Go player was saying that he liked this move. We didn't really know if it was objectively supposed to work, or was it just something that was working because he was strong. And we never knew that. And quite often the human player was wrong, as we are finding out now. And so it was relatively difficult for younger players to accumulate knowledge about the strategic points in the game, because there was nothing that we could rely on completely. So I think it's sort of a kickstart for the young players that they have AIs to work with. Hmm. Huh. E18 is a weakness for black. E8. Black would like to play at E8, but playing at E8 and living on the left side is not simple. Okay, August Leo is asking, for beginner cues like myself, would you suggest we play more games or read theory more? I think you probably learn more from playing games, especially if you enjoy it. And also, like talking about study, um, probably throughout you're playing the game, you'll learn more by studying things that you enjoy, because like the amount of study you can do about Go is almost infinite. There's so much, so many things that you can learn about Go. So you don't really have to do, unless you're trying to be a world champion, in which case you have to be perfect, as close as perfect as you can get. But if you're not doing it to that extent, then I think it's okay to have strong points and weak points. And you should probably, you could spend your whole life reinforcing your strong points, and it would be worthwhile. So I think you actually learn more if you enjoy your study and get better concentration and stuff. Tetsuji is great. Yeah, just watch my Tetsuji videos. There's plenty of them. Yeah, so let's see. In YouTube, I get my YouTube channel. For those of you in Twitch, maybe I should give the YouTube, just in case my Twitch viewers can bring themselves to visit my YouTube also. So I'll give the Twitch people my YouTube channel also. And a lot of videos. So it's hundreds of videos at my channel, and they're all free. So feel free to go and watch. Look for playlists. I did a lot of life and death and Tetsuji videos. So I think it's a good idea to watch them. And yes, if you want to support the channel, you can go to Patreon. Let's give in this pause in the game, I can push my Patreon too, I suppose. So at Patreon, you can donate to the to my channel basically, and at the $50 tier, you do get to have a monthly teaching game on OGS. So that's, I suppose some people would say that's worth it. And also about the previous question, like if you're a very casual player and you think you want to play some more games, I think it's okay to play on small boards if there's some if you have an issue with the amount of time you can use. So like if you want the game to end quickly, playing on a smaller board is a good way to do that. Okay, Bug Kitten is asking, is this a situation where Black would consider just making a two-space space on the bottom side, but that would be too passive maybe? Question mark. The problem is that Black is something like one move away from dying on the left side. So Black would like to be able to play an extension on the left side. And like, for instance, moving towards the corner would also be an option. So like, for instance, if black didn't have to worry about that group in the corner on the left side. Oh, sorry, I missed some moves here. So if black didn't have to worry about this group, then black could do something like this, something like this. Moving towards the corner first, this is sort of sente. So like if white plays from this side now, black can play here, and black will be getting a base in the corner. So if white plays here, then black could play here. So if we're just looking at the left side, this kind of play would actually be an option for black. It would be big. But of course, black has to live on the left side. So black played here, trying to hit the weak point of white's knight's move. So that's a shape move. White pushed through. And yes, so waiting for that. So the order of moves here is important. So if black had played this first, and then played here, then white would probably find a different way to answer that. So black waits for white to push through, and then play. So this is what we call a good order of moves. And let's see. Oh, this is as far as it got. The latter must favor black. Yeah, for the time being. Otherwise, I don't see the point. And also, he doesn't really have a cut. So what is black going to try to do? Okay, the latter does favor black for the time being. So he doesn't have a cut on the side here. So if black plays here, white can capture it like this. And black has 3 liberties in the corner, but white has 4. Sorry, white has 4. So white's winning that one. So when black plays here, I suppose he's looking at a shape something like this, which would be forcing, and then black would be able to. This would be alive. Whether black plays here or here, this would be alive. So the tesuji here, I should have put this as a problem actually. So this is the tesuji to make a life, where black can make 2 eyes like this, or 2 eyes like this. Of course, white does get to squeeze from this side, but that would make a weakness here. So maybe it doesn't work so well. So I guess something like this is what black has in mind, and then white would play something like this to attack black on the side. So white does have a lot of attacking potential here still. I sort of doubt that black will have time to do this thing. It looks like it's going to die. Okay. Okay, so what's happening here? Maybe black is going to try sacrificing some stones on that side. It's sort of hard to see what black's plan here is, because it's a bit sort of desperate. So so white's going to push through here, and so black can break through here, but it's going to lose 6 stones there. So this might be the plan, to do that and then to curl around here and to go after white's 5 stones on the left side. For instance, something like that. I don't know. White might still play on this side. I think this looks okay for white. Okay, so this is what's happening here. Wow. Also the question of white's next move, I extended, but maybe white can play here too. So there's a weakness towards the corner. But the moment black runs out of forcing moves, he has to deal with this. Let's see, what is this? Maybe black can survive. This doesn't look very attractive, though. For instance, in this case, white would just live in the corner. So this would be a collapse for black. Okay, so I'm talking about white's next move here. So at first I was suggesting that white would be okay extending, but white would, if possible, white would like to be able to play here and put a bit more to squeeze just a little bit more. And the third choice would be to play something like this first, in which case white would be threatening to do this. And in this case, white would be able to make two eyes, so that would settle white's group in the center there. So if black answers that, then it would be easier for white to do something like this. Or like this. So it might be better for white to do it this way. So this would be something like this, and then white would play here. So black has more than 40 points of territory, but is going to be having a hard time trying to save this black stone on the bottom side. And white has some territory too, so that's more than 20 points that white got in the upper left here, capturing those stones. So on the whole, I think I like this for white. Okay. All right, who is leading? I think white is leading at this point. Wow, but I didn't expect that move. That's very aggressive. So he's not giving anything up. He's going to try to kill everything. So I would have been satisfied to sacrifice those stones, but maybe it wasn't active enough. Okay. Yes, but of course the fact that white's group in the upper left is not only has a big territory, but it's very secure, is probably what makes this kind of move possible for white. And black's group on the left is not alive yet, so that's the whole point with white playing here. Okay. Yeah, so that's the main position. Okay, so the clock here says that Jihao is on his last 4 minutes, and Shin Jinseo has about 32 minutes. So if this is correct, in a few minutes we'll see the second reading starting. And he only has 1 minute for each move. So when I say black's not alive on the left side, it depends on who plays this point. So if black plays here, that's as good as alive. But of course, let's see, how would white... This might actually be an option. Because if white goes after the 3 stones, then black gets to push through and cut here. So this would be bad for white. This would be giving up too much. And yeah. So playing here is actually a pretty important point. If black plays here, white might take this point immediately. And just... it's pretty much eyeless. Like even if black adds a stone there next, it's not going to be alive. White's not going to play 6 yet, of course. Both 5 and 6 are not moves that are going to be played yet. But the point is that black doesn't have 2 eyes there. Yeah, so maybe here. Yeah, I would probably play here. I think this is black's best bet. But he extended. So white's probably going to take that point. The thing is that if black plays there, it does bad things with white's shape. So for instance, there's this move here, which would capture the 3 stones in a pinch. Playing here and connecting, it doesn't really work because of this. This would lose the black stones. So the move at 2 does set up moves like this next. So it's significant in that way also. And yeah, Bub Kitten is talking about yesterday's game that Wu won when Byung over-attacked him. And I'm sorry, I wasn't watching. I was playing my own game that day, so I wasn't watching. White, yes. Leonardo de Wagner is saying is the problem that white needs to keep those stones in the center left alive. Definitely white does. White spent a move escaping once. So clearly white's game plan is not to sacrifice them. So white can play once here. The moment white does that, white has to be worried about this cut here because white can't capture anything on the left side. So if black gets to cut here, now black is going to win because this captures white's stones. So white has only 2 liberties here. And so white has to find a move, after playing 1, white has to find a move that defends against that cut in the lower left corner. And so I was suggesting here. So this seems to do it by setting this up. White has to find a way to avoid being captured in the center here. So that's what I'm doing with this stone at 3, sort of waiting for black to escape in this direction. So if black jumps and white plays here, you can see the black group on the left, it's not alive. So if white can survive in the center, that's going to be a significant attack. So the fact that black doesn't have any potential counterattack against the white group in the upper left center, it makes the whole thing very difficult for black. So provided white can escape, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, it's difficult for black. But at this moment in the game, white does have to be aware of the 2 dangers. So the one danger being that this cut, this is the most important danger, is the cut here. So white has to find a way to deal with that. Probably after playing it 1, but white does have to deal with that fairly immediately. And if white does that in a passive way, then maybe black can capture. So let's see. Still doesn't work, does it? So black cannot capture there. White actually has 3 liberties. So white has enough liberties. So maybe something like this. I was thinking this would be safer, but maybe this way. I guess it looks like white's going to be okay. Precise reading calculation is necessary here. So yeah, he's pausing for a moment. Okay, Leo was talking about white's moyo, G14. G14, yeah, it's too late to do that though. Once white has exchanged this stone for this stone, that's white's played on the wrong side to make a moyo on the bottom side. So that's not the idea. And now it's not going to work. So even if black just extends, it's just going to be one more white stone inside the moyo. And it's actually not going to be good. So white doesn't want to do that. White's idea is to save all of these stones and not to give anything up. Or at least to make black pay a lot for capturing them. Okay, Frozen Soul is talking about Kevin Yang. I was very impressed with Kevin Yang's playing in a game he played in the Cross-Pacific tournament. He's a young American young man. 14 or I think he must be 15 by now. But something like that. Very young and strong. Mm-hmm. Hmm? Okay, I was off the game board, so let's see. Yeah, so they did play a move. Oh, they played two moves. So yeah, so this is the shape that I was talking about. So provided white can escape in the center, this is a very difficult fight for black. There's also the fact that black's shape in the center is not so strong. So like, let's see. See if I can make a diagram. So for instance, something like this might be a good try. But the fact that like this this weak shape and the fact that white's so solid in the upper left, it just makes it close to impossible. So black just doesn't have enough kind of power to make this attack work. So if white can escape here, it's okay. It's trouble for black in the center. Wow, that's the variation I was just showing. So black did play the wedge. So the point here is that like if black plays something like this and white plays here, then the wedge is gone because white can connect up from this side. So there is some meaning to be playing this early. And so when white plays something like this, black will have the... it still doesn't work, does it? But yeah, in some cases, black will have the option of playing here. So at the very least, black gets a forcing move at 7. Whereas if black had played here immediately, then it would have been completely gone. So in this case, white would be able to probably play here and then be connected on this side. So that would make it a lot easier for white to move out in the center. So there is some meaning to black wedging here once. Oh, and then he played here. Okay, so what's the idea? So in this case, it's pretty obvious that if white plays here, then having the wedge there is making a difference. But I don't really see if it's going to be enough to save the day for black. Maybe just this forcing move. It's just not working. If white can escape, black's not alive on the left side. So that's black's problem. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So white seems to have a choice of extending or playing a hane here. Let's see what happens if white plays the hane. So if white plays the hane, black's probably going to play here. No, but white can still play. Yeah, this might work. Okay, third choice would be this one. So like in this case, white would be just going out or cutting. It looks safer to extend first though. Extend or play a hane. I think white seems to have various ways to save these stones, and it seems to be just a question of what is the best way. Right, right. Okay, about Li Shanhao. People in Twitch are talking about Li Shanhao. There was an accusation that that was actually one of the live streams that I did. His game against Shin Jinseo. He had a convincing win against Shin Jinseo. And someone accused him of cheating with a computer. But you know, these tournaments they're watched by referees. And like I don't really see, and the players are not allowed to take in their phones. They're supposedly very closely watched. So if we question that, we're questioning the whole system. It means that there's some kind of and it's sort of like a plot. So I find it difficult to believe that could happen. The whole, all of the officials and things, everyone would have to be into it. So it would be very unlikely. And so so then, like basic tract says, the investigation found no evidence of cheating. So actually, I think the person who accused him was penalized. But of course, this kind of problem, I mean, the kind of dispute there where someone accused him of cheating in this age where, like, my phone, I see a phone like this phone here, is stronger than I am. You just need the app inside it, and it gives a better answer than I do. So the fact that even a mobile phone is stronger than a top-ranked professional shows how effective cheating would be if someone did that. And so I think we have to live with that fact and work around it. Just admit that people are human. So conceivably, it could happen. But I think in the system we have here, they are trying to stop it. And I think they should be, especially in these games that are international tournaments. It's just the one game going on. And there's going to be a referee in the room with the player. So I don't see how it could happen. So Hello. Okay. Uh-huh. Right. Okay, so let's see. I should try showing a variation where it actually works for black. So just to get the idea of what might be happening here. If black can put white in a shortage of liberties like this, then the cut here is going to work. So this would be a win for black. So at some point, even when white plays the hane here, so at some point, white does need to have this forcing move. Looks like it's a forcing move. So in this shape, yeah, so, well, so it sort of hangs on this move here, whether or not this is going to be forcing. So at some point, black has to play a forcing move at 10, and if black gets that in, it could potentially make this work in the center. So let's see. Yeah. So yes, so there are some potential complications. So what's happening on this side? 1, 2, 3, 4 liberties. Black has 5 liberties. So if white fills a liberty, then black's going to win by 1 move. If white takes a stone here, now it's going to be different. This is going to be, so yeah. But this would live, right? So black plays here. Now this is starting to look exciting. So yeah, something like this. Well, just, there's kind of a potential ko on the outside too. But that's probably not a good idea for black to do. So let's have black fill liberty. This would be a ko. So I've gotten to a ko, made a ko out of it. A ko might even be playable for white, because white has this big ko threat here. So something dynamic like this could actually happen. And there's also the question of whether 10 is always going to be forcing. So back to this, okay. Yeah, so this is the game move. And black pushes through here. Black is probably going to cut at E17 or F15. Black needs that extra forcing move. So the idea is that if black needs a stone here to connect up, then white will play here in the center, and this is just bad for black. So this is just, it's just not working. So black needs to use the cut here at some point. And if black can do that, then black gets to play back towards the center. So that's the whole idea here. But if black waits this long, it's probably not going to be forced. So then we get into something like this. Completely different variation. And I don't know. It's probably not so great for black, but black can at least win the race to capture. Yes, a wild fight. I don't know about this one. Okay, so black instead, maybe a bit more secure to start with the cut on the third line. So this was the game move. So black has established that forcing move at f15. So that was the whole point was here. It all involves the cut in the center. So if white, let's see. Okay, white extended. So they're moving forward fairly quickly here. But like the cut here in the center. So let's say black plays here. It still involves this. So, okay. Still looks bad for black, you know? It still looks dangerous for black. Okay, so black lost the 4 stones in the center. 20, 22, 4, 6, 26, 27. White has something close to 40 points, but black managed to live on the left side. So actually this variation might be acceptable for black. So it's a very volatile situation here. But everything involves that cut that white is trying to do at h13. Okay. Okay. Calamari Atari is saying, could it be that white still wants to sack the group to try for a middle moil? Like it, the more white does that, adds stones to the group, the more difficult that becomes. So like, if white loses the whole group at this point, it's something like 20 points. So it's getting bigger and bigger, and the center is getting smaller and smaller. So with this attachment that black's played on the second line, black is just trying to get something extra. So getting some extra value in a kind of a squeeze is what black is trying to do. Cyphus, you were away for 15 minutes. 15 minutes is a long time. Hmm. Okay, and Helen was gone for 10 minutes too. Yes. What's going on is black is desperately trying to kill white's group in the center, but it does look difficult. So, first of all, yes, Shin Jinseo is using time too. He's at 14 minutes, but it looks like Jihao is in overtime at this point. So, or maybe just about to go into overtime, according to my thing. So for the time being, black is threatening to connect on the first line. So if white plays away, maybe black will curl once, but this is just looking bad for white. So usually white would be playing something here. Something like this would capture the 3 stones. Something like this would work also. So so that's probably the choice, unless white trades with the center, which I don't really expect. Yeah, I think something like this would be like this is the easiest move to deal with. And if we say this happens, one thing I was just noticing is black does have this forcing move, white. So this is threatening to capture these stones like this. Black needs to add a stone here. So you can see how the squeeze, the squeeze here is developing. So the squeeze with black playing like this and like this. Black gets all of these forcing moves from the outside. So this part of it is good. However, on the left side, I just noticed that 7 is a pretty effective move. And white actually has a pretty good position in the race to capture, because now white has 1 eye, and white has 3 liberties. So white can squeeze here and win by 1 move. So yeah, so actually, if white can cut black here, then connecting at 5 and then making an eye with 7 is a killing move. So I've gotten that far. Wow, okay. Didn't see that. White connected here. Now that's more of a threat against black in the center. So on the bottom side, white can capture these guys. So for the time being. And since it's only 2 moves, so like this is dead. And the fact that black has only 2 liberties, or at this stage it's 3. If we count white's liberties, white has 3, 4, 5 liberties. So white is always 2 moves ahead in this variation. So whatever black does in the center, it's not going to be forcing. White can play away, and will still be able to win the race to capture. So that's what white was doing with this connection on the 4th line. So the 4th line, white's trying to keep pressure on black in the center, threatening to cut at h13, and at the same time white is capturing these stones. So they're just dead. Okay, so we're back to the center now. So that the side it didn't work for black. There's still a kind of a potential squeeze. So if black can play 2 moves, for instance, like this and like this, then yes, black did get to squeeze from this side. But if black's going to die on the left, it's not going to be good enough. So on the left, if black plays here, now the cut here is probably more, but even if white plays here, even if white plays this one, it looks like white's winning. Yeah, I don't see any way black can win this fight. It's just directly a win for white. Yeah, sort of surprised that white can can win when there was so little space there, but white had an outside liberty, and it's going to win by 1 move. Yeah, so it's sort of counterintuitive, you might say. It looked like white was in a tight spot. Okay, so black filled the liberty there. Now that changes it. So like if white were going to try to kill black on the left side, then this would be a different thing. So like if this happens, then this is not going to work anymore. So that's what the meaning of this move was. And white has to play something in the center. So maybe the cut. Yeah. Doesn't look good for black. Okay, in order to save the 4 stones, black would have to play an Atari here. Thank you, Turner. Turner's 87. Okay, in order to save these 4 stones, black has to do something like this. But you can see this has a bad effect on black's position on the other side. So like if black does something like this, it does look sort of painful. White might curl around here. Thank you. Victor Markovicek. Is that a good pronunciation, I hope? Okay. So yeah. Oh, now black seems to be trying to squeeze and save the corners. This is an interesting variation. So say white plays here, black plays here, and white cuts, and black takes. So for the time being, yeah, this isn't working though, does it? No, it doesn't work. So if black plays here, still doesn't work. And it doesn't work in maybe more than one way. Here and here. Black sort of wants to be able to force with something like this and save these stones. So this seems to be sort of the idea. Problem is that it doesn't quite work. White can push through here, and black still can't save these stones. Capturing the ko, it doesn't work either. Like if white plays here, then finally it's going to work. So in this case, black can connect here and save the stones. So I'm not even sure if this is going to be good enough for black, but it actually doesn't work because white is going to play, white can just play something like this first. No. Well, he will. Yeah, so right here. Let's see, can black finally make this work? We'll probably end up with a situation that's good for white anyway, but black's idea here is to try to kill white in the corner. Yeah, there was some news about people finding a way to break the AI and beat it. So some people wanted me to talk about that, so I'll talk about it a little bit here. My understanding is that it's something that kind of a trick people play after what I would say the game is over. and instead of ending the game, the human player has to try to find some move that is so bad that the AI will pass instead of answering it. So you have to find that, and it apparently takes hundreds of moves. Setting up a position where you can make a life inside the AI's territory, and playing bad enough moves that it will not answer. So I don't really see any point in looking into that in any great detail, because it seems doesn't seem to be goal to me. So that's my take on the AI breaking strategy. Okay, yeah, so maybe it's safer for white to extend here. With this, white's position in the center is pretty much okay already. White still has 4 liberties with this white group here. So this group has 4 liberties, and black has 2 liberties. So black doesn't really have any forcing moves. So like the shape move would be to play here, but white does not have to answer that. So when white plays away, black can still not save these stumps. So black gets a kind of a little squeeze here. Yeah, there's probably like black will eventually have to move back to the left side to have a living shape. So that's gonna be alive. That's alive. But yeah, the game looks good for white anyway. Okay, yeah. Oh, excuse me. Is the left alive already? Okay, yeah, so that was my mistake. So left is not going to be killed because black has a forcing move at... Let's see, am I in the game? Yeah, I'm in the game thing. So black has a forcing move at C13. So that was an oversight on my part. But it does mean that black's going to lose... Probably going to lose those stones. Okay, so it's not as if it's dead. So black can... let's put it on the board now. Okay. Yeah, that works too. And black can play in a... so black can play here and can capture the 3 stones here. So that's the idea that black has. So he can play that forcing move and then live like this. So black did manage to live on the left side, but had to pay some territory in the upper left. Obviously, that's something like more than 20 points. It's close to 25 points that white has in the upper left. And black's group there, it's not 100% saved yet. So like later on, white can maybe play somewhere around here and put some pressure on this black group. So black survived. Maybe white will switch to the corner here. But black's territorial lead is disappeared because white has something more than, significantly more than 20 points in the upper left. So that's 10, 12, 14, 15. It's about 25 points. White has more than 10 points in the lower left. That's about 12 points. So actually white has close to 40 points of territory. And black still only has that 20 points in the top left and maybe close to 10 points in the lower right. So it's starting to look like white has more territory than black does. And the bottom side is not completely alive either. So this looks like it's... Oh, yeah. Probably not very much point in saving that stone either. It looks very difficult for black. Right, and that's calamari Atari. All these variations ending up good for Shin, even though he was in a small space. So he was in a tight space there, but the fact that the surrounding black stones were just dead, and the surrounding white stones were mostly fairly strong. That's what made it easy for a relatively easy fight for white. So actually, black is losing something with this move, as well as connecting up in the center. So the thing that black is losing is the option of jumping out on this side. So black had this move. By playing here and forcing white to do something like this, black actually is going to lose those two stones in the center. And will eventually have to move back here. He might play this way. Eventually black will have to protect here. Although he might try to postpone that as long as possible. Okay, so white could add a stone to the center, but white does have a number of options here. So like white could even play away. Okay, still threatening to kill the black group. So like if black was really very... Black doesn't want to move back here. So like this is painful, living with two eyes, putting a stone inside what you thought was your own territory. So it's conceivable that black will want to be hoping to sort of make some problems, future problems for white by playing an exchange like this. And maintaining that maybe white's not 100% alive yet. It's a bit far-fetched. Also, there's the fact that black won. It's not really scented. So white might just ignore that move or play something like this. It doesn't seem to be working for black. Okay, Jihao seems to be in overtime. And so yeah. Rukawa Kaede was asking that. So yeah, he seems to be in overtime. But in overtime he does have 1 minute for each move. So in this overtime, black can use a whole minute for each move he plays. He might be just using it to the limit. Okay. Yeah, that was painful. Right, so black doesn't have enough territory to merit all of this. So yeah, so white's just going for a life here. So this is forcing, and white will then move towards the corner. So this is just living in the corner here. Is probably the simplest way to win this game. I'd say white is already looking at just finishing off the game at this point, because black has... I was always saying that black has about 20 points in the upper left, maybe a bit more, but there's very little more territory for black to count. So like the lower right corner is less than 10 points, and then a few scraps in the lower left. So it adds up to something like 30 points, plus maybe a bit of territory in the upper right. So 30 points is just not enough, because white already has 25 in the upper left here, has 12 here. Let's see, several points in the center too. Yeah. So black has to do something dramatic here in order to win the game. First of all, if we look at a variation like this, you can see how that stone at at M3 that's in the way of black. Like if that were not there, then it would be conceivably black would be able to connect up. On the second line. So having that stone there, it makes a difference. So if black plays here, he actually cannot, when black pushes through at 3, it's already dead. So it's already dead as it stands, regardless of the fact that white can also play on this side. But if black connects, now this is just a live shape, so white could even survive playing away at this point. So black 5 is not even a forcing move. So for instance, black would be thinking of doing something like this, and white just has a lot of options at this point. So for instance, one option would be to play here and here and squeeze like this. And again, you can see that stone at M3 coming into play. So this is a squeeze, and black eventually has to move back. And it's just, the whole thing is, it's looking okay for white. Like, that was just 5 points that black has left of territory. Okay, so white extended down. So the idea with this is that if white had played this way, maybe he was thinking black would play something. This is probably not going to work for black anyway. But I think the idea was that black was going to do something like this. And black does have a living shape in the corner. So white extended. So white's just trying to keep things simple. And is alive now on the side. And black peeped. And like I said, top throws, they just don't answer this peep. They never connect to the peep. But this is not as if it's going to be a big problem for white. Because we have to remember, black's not really alive on the left there. But it is interesting that he's allowing the final fight there. So this is going to be a final fight in the lower right. And if white doesn't get into trouble here, it should be a win for white. It says that Shin Jinseo still has about 3 minutes. Okay. Looks like white's pretty much alive on the bottom side here. Okay, so black has to try to attack white on the right side. And now he seems to be playing very quickly now. Jihao actually is not using his overtime fully. I think it means he knows that he has to play quickly and try to get some kind of a mistake from Shin Jinseo. It's his only hope. I think they're still doing. Yeah, that's a good question actually. Orban Salt is asking: Are the players are face to face, or is this online? I think it's still online. Um, I'm not sure actually, but I think they're still playing the international tournaments online. There's still some difficulties in traveling overseas. Um, and like if in a tournament, let's see, what tournament was it? I forget what tournament it was when two players of the same country, I think it was two Chinese players were playing each other. Then they played it face to face. But otherwise, I don't think they do that. But we should be fairly close to being able to do that again. Okay, just to remind you, that white group in the center doesn't have two eyes yet. So black is sort of hoping to attack that white group at some point. Okay, so now it's in danger. Now it's really in danger. Okay, the Samsung Cup. Thank you, Flittermouse. Okay, so white just lived. That was keeping it simple. So yeah, I guess the lower side is okay as it is, although the Hane at P18 is a big move. Playing at P18 is a big move for either side. But it's not gonna die. Yeah, black just doesn't have enough territory, so yeah, black has to kill something. Mm-hmm. So this is a tesuji. So for instance, like if we have white play something like this and capture it this way, then this becomes a key point that takes away white's eye space. So yeah, black might even not. So this would be, yeah, I'm not sure it's gonna die, but this would be troublesome for white. Okay, so that's better shape. And it looks like it's gonna be alive. So like the tesuji is to play this move and then play here. And if white plays here, then that was a good exchange. So this again, it's the shape move kind of thing. So this would be pushing white around for a bit, although it's not going to die. It would be, black would get some profit out of this attack. Okay, black peeped. So that was threatening to peep on the second line. So if white plays away, black can play here to attack. Maybe even kill it. So yeah, white didn't want to allow that. But black did lose some territory with that exchange. So after playing that exchange, I suppose black did... I guess black does have a forcing move here. So later on, black can play... Wow. So if black plays here, black is threatening the white group. Provided black has surrounded it from the center. Black can play here. And yeah, so at some point black's going to play here. And it can die. Provided it can't break out into the center. Okay, so this is a wild move. I sort of doubt that it's going to work. But yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? So this is forcing. And then white's probably going to protect the side. Looks like it's okay for white. Not even sure exactly what he was trying to do. So white's strongest move would be to pull back on the fourth line. Oh, so he played here? The honey in the corner is really big. So if black plays on the left, I guess this is going to be good enough for white. So I guess this variation. So white did lose something locally, but white got back something in the corner. And it is significant that this has become a forcing move. So white has this forcing move here. And makes it easier for white to make a position on the right side. So that's getting the move at 10 makes up for anything that white lost on the bottom side. So black crawled. Okay. So that makes sense. Yeah, so it's kind of a black's trying to start something, basically, yes. So it's sort of difficult, still difficult for black, but he's trying to be annoying as possible. Okay, so I showed the variation where white connected underneath. Otherwise, white can bump against the fifth line. So let's see. If white plays here, white can capture these stones. So this is a trade. This trade is about even. Even is good enough for white. So this is a trade that white could play. Or white could cut and connect underneath. And this is alive. So this is alive because this point and this point are Miai. And white has an eye here. White has an eye on this side too. Okay, that's the way he chose to play. Okay, so if let's take a final look at the territory again. So black has a bit more than 20 points on the top, upper left. So yeah, so let's add that black territory in the lower right and say that adds to about 30 points. And then there's a bunch of small territories that don't really add up to 10 points. So black's below 40 points. White has about 25 points in the upper left and about 12 points in the lower left. You know, that's already enough. So 2, 4, about 6, 7 points here. 45, 50. White has more than 50 points. And black probably can get 40 points, but that's about it. So it's hopeless at this point. I think he's used his last chance to turn it around, because the only possibly group that is not alive is the right side. But with that shape where white is surrounded the one black stone, white has one eye already and looks rather difficult. Yeah, so he's going to try something there, but it's going to be really difficult to accomplish anything against this white group. Yeah, it just looks easy, but of course these easy positions, people make mistakes in them too, so you have to be careful sometimes. So when white attaches here, I think he's going to extend towards the third line or towards the fifth line, one way or the other. So for instance, if black were to play underneath, then this would give white good shape towards the center. And white gets good shape this way also. If black plays on top, I think he's probably going to play here. So he's trying to make a base on the side. So for instance, black would have to play on this side. Yeah, white looks like white has enough territory to be alive. So that's the idea that he has here. Even the ladder favors white. When black does something like this, white can capture this in a ladder. I find it very difficult to visualize a shape where white dies here. Okay, so black played a honey underneath. Okay, YSF Memory is asking, when I say it's easy for white to win, for weaker pros maybe. So would it take a top pro like Shin Jinseo to win this game? So basically what you're asking is it easy for Shin Jinseo? Is it easy for anyone? I say at this point, just about any pro could win the game. And but being human, you know, you can get careless. But playing, I don't like this move, but I think whatever white does, it will take several mistakes for white to lose the game. So it's pretty much impossible for white. It's close to impossible for white to lose the game. It takes a number of mistakes. And they would probably have to include some fairly bad mistakes too. So yeah. So I don't like this because it doesn't really make any eyes for white, but it's still not going to die. All right, so with this, there's a problem with black jumping into the white territory. So black would like to be able to jump in here, but there's a problem that black ends up putting a stone in here and cannot continue here. So like if black does something like this, he loses the tail. Or this would actually be a ko, but it would be pretty bad for black anyway. Yeah, just because the ko is so direct. Next time white plays, it's going to be a cut on the second line. And so if the only move that black can play is crowing here, then it looks like white does have enough room for two eyes. And again, it's this thing where, like, if white wants to live on a small scale, white could do this and have two eyes. But also white can extend. This is probably going to be okay also. The latter favors white. So it should be okay. And like in that, I forgot to count this territory white has in the center. This is a 7. White captured a number of stones here, so this is a 7-point territory that I actually forgot to add to white's territory when I was saying white was way ahead. Yeah, so the difference in territory is pretty big. It's huge. Yeah, there's that thing too. So white's going to use the cut to get some forcing moves towards the center. So he's probably thinking of a variation something like this, where he plays all these moves and he's probably going to add a stone to make a 10-point territory. Okay, we're probably pretty close to resigning time. Yeah, it just looks like there's black's running out of things to do. And it's not as if this white group is about to die if black can surround it. So, for instance, um, the other diagram might have been a bit difficult to understand. So, like, we can say that if white plays here, white has an eye in the center. Like this black group, the stone cannot escape. And ultimately, it's the jump here. Yeah. Which cannot escape. So like it's not working in a number of ways. Otherwise, white, yeah, okay. It took. All right, Leonardo, good night. Okay, knowing Shin Jinseo, he might try to find a way to make it even worse for black. Okay, so this was the super careful move. There's no way it can die now. That was probably correct too. Like white had other ways earlier to live, but this is the safe move now. So just to go through that again before he resigns. So this is the strongest move. But it can't escape. At some point, black would like to play this. It's not going to do any good. Still can't escape. Okay. Looks like black just resigned. And so that was it. Very convincing win for Shin Jinseo. So, but I think, yes, Jihao did well. He, after KJ lost, he was the final Chinese player, and he beat Park Jungwon and Byung Sang-il. So he showed well. Unfortunately, I wasn't around to comment on those two games, but I enjoyed doing the finest one. Doing the final one, that is. So thank you all for staying to the end, and that's it for this time. And probably this month. See you all probably next month. I'll think of something to do. All right. Thank you all, and bye.